Last week on the Al Nicoletti Show.
Mark Monroe. Mark, what's up, baby?
Al, man, 9 o'clock at night with the energy, I feel like I'm at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning getting ready for my workout. 70% of the deals come from your follow-ups. I look at two things when I'm talking to a seller: why they're selling and how I can solve their problem creatively. And then at the same time is who's my buyer. When I look at things, I'm always looking at risk. That's the number one thing I'm looking at.
I'm seeing the analysis. So active listening, do I have the end buyer and the risk involved?
If you have really good systems and good people, it will take so much off your plate.
What was the biggest lesson for you when jumping into real estate?
Your competitor is actually your partner. If you're looking for seller financing, look for landlords that have been landlords for 10, 15, 20 years. What market you're doing depends on what type of exit strategy you're doing. What can you do different than what everybody else is doing? That's why I teach people to start with residential, because once you understand residential, you can get into commercial world. You always want to make sure that you have enough capital to carry a property for 6 months.
Golden nuggets, golden value, Mark. I love it.
If you're surrounding yourself with people that are succeeding, you're just going to get pulled into it no matter what. If you're not going outside your element, you're not moving forward.
Mark, I'll see you soon, man.
Al, thank you so much.
Another great jam-packed episode last week with Mark Monroe. If you missed any of that episode with Mark, you got to go check that out. Mark was dropping some gems, talking about creative financing, seller terms, the education behind it, some tips and tricks, and things to focus on if you get into sub-2, some of the due diligence factors that you need to pay attention to, which was really interesting at the end of the episode. So you don't want to miss that, because you want to be doing these deals the right way, ethically, and making sure that you have everybody's ideas and interests in mind when you come into this game, and you're presenting the best offer you can to the sellers, and everybody's coming out with a win-win-win. So if you miss any of that episode, make sure you check that out. It's on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and of course, you can catch all the video content, which is on YouTube under Al Nicoletti, the Facebook personal page, the business page under Al Nicoletti, and all the micro content that is constantly dropping on Instagram at Attorney Nicoletti, and of course, all the things on probates, quiet titles, all the clips that you see me. I'm standing at a conference table talking to somebody. Have you ever seen me like standing to the side and like talking? Like somebody's always asking me a question about all this stuff. So if you ever see all those videos that are dropping on Instagram, you know I'm at a conference, or I'm at an event, or I'm doing something talking about these things. You don't want to miss that. Tonight is going to be an amazing episode with two amazing people that are in the Ohio market and crushing it. Jay and Annie Adkins. This is going to be amazing, because we're going to talk about some things I haven't had any guests talk about before. We are going to get into, of course, you know what I realized when I talked to them before last week, before they got on the show? Everybody's really interested in this whole creative financing world. And for some reason, it just happened to be that this is like creative financing month on the Al Nicoletti Show. It's like, we're having seller terms, seller financing. So we get to really dive in on more creative financing, especially for some interesting properties that they've been buying, and where you can really find some deals that are, it's an unconventional way of finding them. You don't want to miss that, because I don't think anybody's talked about this before. And I was even intrigued, because I hear about all the distress leads all the time. So of course, we're going to get into some hot trends. You don't want to miss that. So as you can tell, I'm really excited. 9 o'clock on the Al Nicoletti Show. It's a Wednesday night. I got my pen, my paper out. Let me just see if anybody was on the live stream. And if you're on the live stream right now, make sure you ask questions. Teresa, I love it. I love that she's here. Teresa, always doing the amazing recap. We love having the recap at the end of the show. It's awesome. Take notes, ask questions. You're going to want to ask questions, and make sure all the participation, let it drop. Drop it in the comment section. We want to hear it. So let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody, my name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their community that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate, and bringing on people in other markets that are focusing on big time things in real estate. Whether it is Airbnbs, commercial properties, land, getting into things in the commercial space with industrial, mobile home parks, you name it. We bring on the best of the best in the industry, the ones that are grinding day in and day out, that are focusing on this, that can help you, all of you out there, take your company to the next level. On my show today, I got Jay and Annie Adkins. They are super investors out in the Ohio market. I love seeing them every time. I met them at Family Mastermind. They have an amazing energy to them, great dynamic duo, and they are doing some big time things in their industry. And I cannot wait to bring them on the show because this is going to be fantastic. And before we bring them on, one thing I work on when I do the show is I'm always trying to do something different. I'm always trying to think about what the viewers out there, the ones that are listening on Spotify, listening on iTunes, and watching the show on YouTube and Facebook are looking for in the show. And one thing I think's been really important to me is seeing what is working even in my practice. What is working in my business? What am I seeing out there that seems to be clicking that I could share with all of you as well? I think one of the big things is the trial and error on even running the show. We are always trying to think about things and improve them show by show. Anytime I feel like the show keeps going in this, like we have an opening, we have a monologue, we have the guests come on, we have the closing. I'm always trying to change things up, and I think that's important for people out there that are in their business models and in their personal lives as well, to constantly reinvent yourself. Reinvent your business, reinvent your practice. Always try to see how you can improve it, make it better, add a little spice to it, maybe add a little sizzle, as Sharon Vornholt said, because we love bringing the sizzle on the show. But always reinvent yourself and think through how you can constantly make it better. And it brings me to another point that I had a great marketing meeting with my team today with Taylor and Bhaskar. Taylor, it really was an interesting meeting because it's very important that you constantly look at your business as there's something that needs to change, address it, communicate it. If you know things are either stale or stagnant, keep tweaking it, keep fixing the system and see how you can improve it. Right? Whether it's taking, it's not doing one ad, but increasing it more on another ad, or trying one video and maybe making different videos. I made like 80 reels this past week on different topics. And I'm thinking, I don't know, maybe I got to keep changing the way and style on the reels, and always just think through how you can constantly make your systems better. And last but not least, I think this is also important, which is, so I had a phone call about a week or so ago, and an investor found me, said, hey, I got a potential probate situation. Said, great, let's talk about it. Went through the whole thing. And the investor said, hey, by the way, there's an auction coming up in about 2 weeks. So we have a probate to do and an auction to do. And I don't know why this light bulb just went off in my head, but I explained the whole scenario. I went through everything, and everybody knows I'm doing probate. I'm doing probate all over Florida. I've been picking up cases. But the one thing that was interesting was that auction. So I made it a point to say, by the way, that's something I've done in numerous cases. And I think the light bulb went off in my head that a lot of us assume others know what we do, and they assume that we do these things in our practice, but some of us are very niched out in our practice. We don't do certain things, right? Lawyers that do everything, it's crazy. The ones that are niched out and are specialized are focused in that niche. But I realized when it comes to marketing, you really have to tell people what you do. People don't know what you do until you actively communicate and say, we've done this before. This is something we do. And I think a lot of people that are listening and watching that have their businesses just assume that people understand what an investor means, what a realtor means, what it means to be a broker, what they actually do. Show people, show videos, talk about it. You don't have to pitch or make any kind of direct statements. But hey, by the way, this is something we get into. So I just wanted to make a point that when it comes to marketing, you have to explain to people what you do. Maybe it's a practice or a trade that you weren't doing you were doing in the past, and now you all of a sudden want to bring back and revive. But that's something I just wanted to share with you all. I don't know if that's helpful for people, but That's what I felt like talking about. And then Mike comes in. He was telling me about a story, and I'm like, you know what? That's going to be on the show tonight. Exactly what I'm talking about right now. So, all right. Now that my opening monologue is over, let's welcome. They're backstage. I think Jay's jumping up and down right now. Is Jay jumping up and down? I love this. Let's welcome them to the show. Jay and Annie Adkins. I love it.
Yes.
Hello.
Hold on.
Thank you for having us, bro.
I love it. I love
Yes.
seeing you here. 9:00 at night. I
Right.
mean, doesn't get better.
Yes, Jay was jumping up and down before we got
I saw that.
Dude, you got to bring the energy, man. You got to bring the energy. I was feeding off your energy, Al.
I love it. No, I saw the screen on the left. I could see like his head was touching the top. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on?
Al can see you. You're going to distract him, but no.
You all have an incredible story, how you got into real estate. I'm sure people could see the bio, check out the information. But tell everybody, when you got into real estate or when you were making your adjustments into real estate, what was the biggest lesson that you learned? What was that big aha moment that you really took in when you jumped into real estate?
Well, the biggest aha moment for me initially was, oh my gosh, we rented our first house that we bought, and these people are going to pay off our mortgage. Oh my gosh, can you believe that? Like, and we're making
hooked.
money. Like, we're making money every month, and these people are going to pay off our house.
Yes, definitely. He was hooked from check number 1.
Check number 1. You saw
Check
it?
number 1, hooked. And I would say the second one, Al, was when we bought our second house, bank financing still. And I was like, this is awesome. Let's go get another one. And the bank's like, no, Jay.
So sorry. That's not
You
gonna
don't
happen.
qualify. You don't have enough assets. You don't make enough money. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Right. And so
Right.
we discovered creative financing, creative
Yes.
deals.
Yep.
And that's what we're going to focus on mostly tonight, because that is our bread and butter.
Yeah, and like I was saying on the opening, it's crazy. I love having you all both on because it's like Creative Financing Month on the Al Nicoletti Show,
Right.
talking
Yeah.
about all these things. And you and I we're all on the onboarding call, and you were like, "Hey, we picked up these 2 deals that are creative financing." I'm like, "Okay, is it single family?" You're all like, "Well, no, they're 2
Right.
bigger deals." I'm like,
They're 2 bigger deals.
tell us
Yeah.
something we don't know when it comes to seller financing. So let's dive into that, right? So lately you got into a deal where it's an 8-unit, actually 2 8-unit properties that are both creative financing. What was that journey like?
Well, it was interesting for sure, as most real estate journeys are, right? So we had an actual client of Jay's, because Jay is a real estate agent as well. So he was a past client. I knew his wife from outside of the real estate realm. And he was just a tired landlord, right? Like everybody
busy.
hears, yeah, very busy, very tired landlord. And he had let several units go empty and several units run down, and he was just looking for somebody to help him out. And Jay kind of stepped in and said, "Hey, go ahead."
Yeah, it was very similar to your guest from last week. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
just
what-
talked to him and figured out, what are your goals, right? Like, we could have bought it, but it made more sense to him and to us to partner together. So we decided to partner together on that deal. So the financing was already in place, and Annie and I brought cash and added value and basically doubled the value of the property. And so now we took, $75,000 that we put into the property and turned that into about $250,000 in equity. Okay.
Wow.
And increase the cash flow because the property was under rented. So make sure when you're checking out properties that you're analyzing what the market rents are in that area, right? So we want to give as much value to your listeners as we can, Al. So we're going to give them a lot of tips. Hopefully you guys are taking notes.
Give them all the tips, Jay.
Right?
We need
Right? So we talked to the seller, found out their pains, their problems,
Yep.
figured out how we could make it a win-win for for all of us. We discovered, they were renting them for $650, $700 a month, and market rents there were $1,000. Okay. So you can see if you had 7 or 8 properties and only 4 were full, making 700, and now you update the 4 that are empty and increase the rents to 1,000. Now, as the other tenants move out, you continue to raise rents.
Continue
Okay.
to do some updates.
And so we increase the cash flow on those 8 units by about $2,500.
So
Okay.
the money's coming in. You're
Yes,
structuring
yes.
it the right way.
Right.
And this one happens to be by a lake, which I don't know if you're familiar with Ohio, but there's not very many lakes.
Not very many at all.
Right? So it's
like
a
a
very
gold mine.
popular area. A lot of people like to come in from Columbus and
Spend the weekend.
spend the weekend. And so now we are taking one of those units that has now turned, and we are turning that into an Airbnb. Okay.
Yeah, and so like we were discussing, so you get this deal or both of these deals, right?
Mhm.
These 8-unit properties, and some are watching out there going, "How in the world did this even come up?
Right.
What lead list? What motivated seller list? Was this a cold call? Did you direct mail? Like, start if you could just from the beginning, how did this lead even come up? And it sounds like the first time you both are working on this kind of lead. So there's also got to be those jitters maybe of, oh my gosh, we've never done this before.
Right.
Should we even venture into this?
Yes,
Right.
it was our first. We've had quadplexes, I guess to call them, 4 units, and we do duplexes often and triplexes, and we have lots of single family. But this was our first commercial, quote unquote, deal.
Yeah.
And it's an 8-unit. Jay had sold them a house
Yeah.
as a real estate agent, and I actually knew the wife from years and years ago at the dance studio that I used to dance at, and we just have and I still dance there, honestly. I just came from dance class. um, and we just have been periodically talking. We honestly didn't even know that they owned that unit for the longest time, or that complex. So yeah, we just were talking to them, and they were, shooting the hoopla back and forth about what they were doing and what we were into and what we were looking for. And Jay started talking about how we were looking at bigger commercial deals, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, I've got this."
Yeah, I
this
asked
unit.
him that we were talking about a single family house. Okay.
Okay.
So this is an important question, important question worth thousands of dollars for you to ask when you're talking to sellers. What other properties do you have? Okay.
It's a real tough question, really.
But most don't think about that, right? It's
No,
a common
you're right.
sense question to ask, but it's like you actually said it out of your mouth versus
Yes.
your head.
Yes.
Yes. Another important one, Al, is who else do you know that has a property that they need to get rid of? Okay. Because not everybody has a property that they need to get rid of at that time when you're talking to them. Or maybe you can't come to an agreement because we don't get every deal, right? So that's why you're always talking to more and more sellers, trying to find out, like, hey, what other deals do you have? What other deals do you know about? And so we were talking about the single family house, and he mentioned, hey, I got this 8-unit. It's not doing so hot. I'm not really sure if I want to keep it or sell it. And so I said, well, let's talk about it. What
Why
is
don't
it
you
like?
like it? Yeah. Why don't you like it? What needs to happen with it in order for it to be, a gold mine kind of situation?
Yeah. And he said, I'm just really busy. I don't have really time to mess with it. So it wasn't being managed very well.
At all.
And just to be frank, he's not a real estate investor. That's not his primary business, right? He buys real
Right.
estate as an asset. And so I said, well, why don't you have a discussion with your wife? I'll talk to Annie, and let's talk about how we can make this deal work. And we have knowledge in real estate. Obviously, I started as an agent, and transition to investor over time. And then I also am a licensed contractor, and Annie and I have a construction business.
And I started as a loan officer and transferred into the real estate side of things that way.
So
So the background is there.
Yeah.
yeah.
You're familiar with these concepts.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we came up with an agreement, and we decided to co-own the property, and we brought capital in. And just to be clear, not everybody has that much capital. We brought some cash, and then we got a little bit of private money as well to help us to complete those deals for the 75,000. Okay, so you don't necessarily. Some people may think, "Oh, I don't have $75,000." Well, if you have a deal like that where you can create, $250,000 in equity, you're going to be able to find someone to get the money from, or someone to partner with even.
Yeah, the money is the easy part of the deal typically. If the deal is a deal, right?
Yes.
So if it
Right.
makes sense and it's a great deal, then the money is the easy part.
It's just educating the person that's going to be giving you the money that it is
Right,
also a deal as
exactly.
well. So you're
Yes.
Yes.
comfortable giving it to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So let's rewind a little bit. So the communication part about what other properties do you own? Who else do you know? That is a great golden nugget because I can think of a number of times on how easy it is to keep finding these sellers or keep being out there in your business and not ask that question. Get into
Right.
like in the beginning, it's like this is a marketing strategy, right? This is a way to like keep getting more leads. But then
Right.
it's easy to slip out of that position and be like, oh wait, we haven't asked that question in a while, right? So do you all always have like not like a script, but always like a reminder notepad that says, we're not leaving this appointment without asking these things.
Right. Yes. Jay is the appointment go-getter and the negotiator of the team. I do a lot of behind the scenes, but yes, that is one or actually two questions that no matter if he's talking to somebody or if I'm talking to somebody that we know, those are the two questions that we make sure that we always ask. And we've done the bandit signs, we've done the cold calling, we've done the list buying, but in all honesty, the biggest draw for deals for us is people that we know. People that we know, people that we've talked to, people that we've dealt with in the past for different deals that we've already done. And word of mouth is phenomenal a lot of the times as far as deals are concerned. And the more you talk to people, the more you put yourself out there saying, I invest in real estate. Even if you post on your social media that you're looking for a property to buy, it's like they just come at you. It's crazy.
It's amazing what happens when you talk to other people and you
Right.
network with them because they know other people that are going through these situations, or maybe they themselves are.
Right.
And Jay, like you were talking about, some of these people that bought these properties, like the 8-unit, and I know these two investors that even pivoted out of single family home to go to more commercial properties. Like, I mean, they were talking like 50-unit, 100-unit hotels. And I'm thinking, who's motivated to sell a 50-unit, 100-unit, 8-unit property? And you nailed it with these people are holding it as an asset class, not thinking of it as an investor. See, you and Annie are coming into this going, wait a second, we're not just going to snatch it up for the creative finance end. We're also thinking about the end in mind, what the exit strategy is, right? So
Yes.
walk us through like what's going through your mind on, okay, we're going to pick up this deal. We're going to get into it. We've never done it before, but we now got to think about, let's not be what that guy did to this property.
Yes.
Let's not be that guy again.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, so it's important when you're talking with the sellers initially, like you said, Al, having a series of questions on there, like, are you current on your mortgage? Like, what is your rate? Is it adjustable or not? And when it adjusts, how much is it going to adjust? Like, these are all very important questions. You're trying to lower and minimize your risk as much as possible, and you have to ask those questions in order to get the full scenario of what the situation is with that property and the financing that is in place for that property. And so that's why we're always telling our students, make sure that you ask all of the questions that you need to ask, so you know what is their what is their exit plan. And so our exit plan is there is no exit on this
Right.
property. Okay.
There is none.
Um,
Open-ended.
we came to an agreement that we would hold this property long term, and we would increase the value of it by increasing the property value and increasing the rents, because these commercial properties are worth whatever the rents are coming in.
Right.
So the more that you are able to get for rent, the more valuable that the property is. Okay. And so the plan is, now that we have all these filled, we will look for a refinance on this property, take out the cash that we put in and the other owner put in, and then we're going to go buy another multi-unit.
And do it again.
Do it again.
Again and again.
Yes.
And you see the vision behind that, right? I mean,
Right.
Yes.
you see that what that can do, and almost like the compound effect to doing that means you can keep scaling your business that way.
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Incredible.
And that conversation actually started with a single family home first, which we did get owner financing from him on that one. We took that one over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, he was just, he's not in it for the real estate side of things. It's more of an asset, and he is a really bad manager. And that's him saying to us, I'm a really bad manager. It's not it's not something that I want to do, and I can't find anybody to help me that's consistent enough and that, that shows up when they need to. So we stepped in and helped him out and got that owner financing on that single property, and then ended up with the 8 unit too.
So some people are soft in their heart, and I do appreciate that. However,
Jay is one of those people.
I am.
sweet.
I am. However, if you are renting a property to someone, they need to pay you.
Correct.
Okay. And some people are too soft in their heart. Like if someone's behind, they just won't collect rent. And this was the case on this
that single
property
family house.
where rent had not been collected for a very long time. Okay. And so we took it over. It's subject to, there was a mortgage on it. Subject to, we just took over the property. Now we make that mortgage payment instead of him. And you'll find this quite amazing, Al, and your listeners. We actually kept the same renter in the house.
Interesting.
And
but
she
told them to
pays
pay.
rent every month.
And here's how we did it.
It was comical to me.
I called her up and I said, look, right now you owe $24,000 in back rent.
Hadn't paid for 3 years.
Wow.
Okay. And obviously that can't go on anymore. Like we are the new owners of the property.
New sheriff.
Right.
Yeah.
And
New
your
sheriff in town.
and your rent has been $650 or $700. I can't remember which one it was. But market rent also $995, $1,000 a month. And I said, here's the deal. If you're willing to pay today $1,000 and now your rent is $1,000 every month, your $24,000 in back rent is completely forgiven.
What
And
was
that
her
tenant
response?
is still in there today, and it's been like, but going on 3 years
Going
this
on
spring.
3 years this spring. Yeah.
What was the tenant's response like when you said that? Was it absolutely going to do that? Or
Oh my God, yes! Thank you so much. And the roof's leaking. Could you fix that?
oh, right, of course.
Yes, we'll fix the roof.
They didn't have the check for you at the moment.
Right.
But needed the roof fixed.
Yeah, so we put a
Great.
new roof on the house.
So were those numbers factored into anything with the creative finance deal at all? Or you were just starting from scratch at that point?
We were starting from scratch. The house really didn't need any work on the inside. So really it just needed a new roof and
The tenant to pay her rent.
yeah, the tenant to pay her rent. And so we were able to take that one over. The loan balance was $62,000. And at that point in time, it was worth about 100,000. Okay. So we invested in a new roof. That was around $6,500 for the roof. And we gave no money down to the seller. Okay. And we took over ownership and paid the loan. And then once we got the tenant paying again and got the new roof on, then we refinanced it and took cash out of the property. Okay. So we took out about $30,000 in cash. And then our new payment was about $600. So we cash flow about $350 a month on that property. And after a year, we were able to take out $30,000 and get our money back for the roof that we did.
Huh. Very interesting way you structured that. I was gonna say, like, how did you do your numbers? And you were like, well, here we go.
I'm giving it all, Al.
You're giving it all.
Your listeners want to know. They want to,
yeah.
like, when they leave today, we want them going and doing a deal.
Oh, I can tell you right now, I know there's a number of them that are listening right now live that are going to be doing it. I know Teresa's ready. I know Robert Rodriguez.
Let's go, Teresa.
Yeah, she's
Robert.
always watching. Robert's watching. So there's plenty that are listening even later on iTunes and Spotify that'll be doing this. So
Absolutely.
Yes.
you know, one thing that's really interesting, and I talked to Mark about it on the show last week, which is the education to that seller, to that motivated individual that owns that property. Clearly, for this 8 unit, didn't sound like there was a lot of convincing. He already had convinced himself that he needed to do this.
Exactly.
But in the market we're in, and in different times where property values are very high and a normal transaction just doesn't make sense, the creative finance world, as I've seen from the previous guest, only makes more sense because they're almost projecting the future value of that home based on the payout situation. So when you are explaining this to sellers, are you doing charts? Are you doing any type of money figures? Or are you just simply explaining that this is going to benefit them over the long run?
Yes, we don't use anything fancy. We don't use real estate words 90% of the time, because a confused mind says no, and no is not the answer that we want to hear. So the more basic and the more laid back conversation, the better, as far as we're concerned, and as far as we
Yes.
found in our 20 years of real estate, or 20 plus. But yeah, again, Jay's the negotiator, so he just, goes in. Sometimes we go together, and just depending on if you're meeting with a husband and wife, or if you're meeting with an entire family, or, it's always important to make sure that all of the decision makers are there, no matter what, because if you can't decide that day, then the chances of it being decided at all is slim to none. But definitely make sure all of the decision makers are there, and don't confuse them, because again, a confused mind says no. So
Yes,
just
we
have
keep
a conversation.
We
Go
keep
ahead.
it very simple, very simple. And
Yeah.
that's really key, because like Annie said, they may get confused, and they don't want to feel like they're unknowledgeable or dumb,
Right.
basically. And so instead of saying I don't understand what you mean, they'll just say, no, I don't want to do that.
And when you use words like subject to and owner financing and things like that, it's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
I could
yeah,
already see how that could just be
the eyes
complicated.
glaze over, and
Yeah.
I did it
Start
once, Al.
talking.
We do trusts. Okay. Trust is a simple document that allows us to own the property with the seller. So we're owning it together. We leave them on there until we pay their mortgage off, right? As a small owner on it. Okay. But one time I sat down like, yeah, this is the trust, and here's the circles and the beneficiaries and the yada, yada, yada. And he's like, no, I don't want to do that.
It's too much.
Yeah, I just want to sell it.
Yeah. They just want to sell it, and where's the money?
right,
Right?
exactly.
Right. That's
Write
it.
me a check right now.
Right. Yeah. I was. It's funny because I had a surplus case come up the other day, and all I wanted to know is when's the money going to be cut. So if you can just explain it to them in a very simple way, and I think Annie, were you telling us about this on the onboarding? Was speak to them as a fifth grader, like if
Yeah.
in fifth grade language.
Yep.
Yes.
Definitely keep it very simple. We'll keep you on. We'll make sure that, you get whatever you need out of the house. You can leave whatever you don't want to mess with. We will handle all of that for you. We will make sure that your house is covered with insurance. We'll make sure that that your mortgage company is still the beneficiary if something happens so that your mortgage gets completely paid off. Like very basic English.
Yep. We can send you receipts every month of the paid mortgage, so you see that we're paying it. And like Annie said, we'll add you to the homeowner's insurance. We're going to get our own insurance now instead of you having insurance on it. So you don't have any liability in regards to that.
We'll cover all the taxes. We'll cover all the repairs. We'll manage everything for you. Literally, all you have to do is sign this paper and hand us the keys.
Yeah, you see everybody that's listening and watching, you see how you can learn a different strategy each time from a different guest? Like Mark last week was explaining a whole spreadsheet of all the numbers. And some people relate to that, right? Some
Right.
people will relate to, whoa, I'm getting that in 30 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
some aren't thinking that. They're thinking the immediate now.
Right.
And that's what Jay and Annie are talking about is what's the solution for the now, and we'll deal with the rest later, and we make it easy. So it's different creative ways that you can get into on how you can get into these deals. And Jay, I'm sure you could break down another crazy number deal that you went through where I don't know. Do you have any other deals that you can break down numbers on? Because I mean, that was a thorough analysis.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What's the next one?
So we got another one, and this was also from our network. Okay, people we know, and we're out to lunch actually, not
Yeah.
dinner, and we're talking to a restaurant owner, and he's like, "Oh, I got this problem property. I don't know what to do. Like, I can't get rid of it."
Wait, how did that even come up in the conversation? Like, I mean, he didn't just like come up to the table and just say, "Oh my gosh, I got a problem property." Like,
Well, we're friends, and he knows we're in real estate because again, we talk about what we do, and he's obviously a restaurant owner, and we visit his establishment for lunch quite often. And so he's like, "How's business? How's it going?" And we're talking about the market and
We
how
need some
things
deals.
are, and we need some deals. So
okay, there we go. All right.
Yeah, we need some deals. What do you got? He's like, "Oh, I got this problem property. I have it on the MLS. It won't sell. It has a foundation problem." Right.
So
And-
everybody's worried that they can't, that it's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars.
And I just said, "Will you take payments for your equity?"
And he's like, "What does that mean?"
What does that mean? Right? What that means is every month I'm going to give you $500 for the house until it's paid off. Okay? So every month I'll pay you $500. He had it listed for 45,000,
Mhm.
and I said I'll give you what you want, 45,000. Right? So
He did not have a mortgage on it. It was paid. He paid cash for it, so it was paid in full.
Yep. So I'll pay you $500 a month over the next X number of years, and then I own it free and clear. How does that sound?
His
Well,
response.
What do I have to fix?
Nothing.
Like nothing. We're gonna fix everything. I mean, you did most of it. There's probably a few $1,000s in cosmetics on the inside, and then a little bit more for the foundation. And I'm not going to give you any money down. I'm going to take my money and fix up the property so that we can rent it out. And I'll either rent it to a regular tenant, or I may even lease option it to someone, right? And help someone else try to buy it. And that's what we initially did. So that, just to be clear, everyone, every month we paid him $500. We owed him $500 less.
On the
Isn't that great?
principal balance.
That is a no interest loan.
And in all actuality, when we first got it, we turned it into an Airbnb for a month because friends of ours needed a place for their daughter to stay that was coming in from Amsterdam. So it was an Airbnb for the first month that we owned it. And then we turned it into a rental property that our oldest daughter and her best friend moved into. And they lived there. And then we just sold it to our oldest daughter's best friend, who is a 22-year-old social worker that just bought her own house. And June, I think we sold it to her in June. So
Yes.
and we held on to that. We paid it off. We refinanced it. So again, we got money out of the deal. And then we sold it to our daughter's best friend since 3rd grade.
We plan to keep it forever, but our daughter's best friend was living there paying us a lot of money for rent. And we said, why don't you buy the house? We know you're never going to move. Like,
She doesn't like change.
let us
She
help
loved
you.
the house.
Let us
so-
help you buy it. And so we did. We helped her get lined up with the lender, get qualified. We did some more upgrades to the property, and then we sold it to her. And so we picked that one up for $45,000. We actually lease optioned it before that too to someone else.
somebody else.
They put in a privacy fence and then got a job transfer and had to move.
I totally forgot about
Yeah,
that.
they lived there 2 years.
Did you know who they were too?
No.
No, we didn't.
I was gonna say this network is getting crazy
Right?
with like
It's crazy.
you know everybody, and everybody's got a need for this and to buy the property. You don't even have to like market it out. Just talk to the people that are surrounding you.
Right.
No, we found them off of a bandit sign.
The original lease option people.
Bandit
yes.
signs are little blank signs that you write,
Oh yeah.
like rent to own, bad credit, okay. Call capture phone number. Call capture is where you have a digital phone number that anytime anyone calls you, it records them into your call capture system. And so now they're in your database and you can follow up with them whenever you want. Okay. So that's something that we use in our marketing to figure out, okay, where are these leads coming from? Did this come from a bandit sign? Did this come from a Facebook post? So you might have extension 1 on the bandit sign, extension 2 on the Facebook post, extension 3 on Instagram, right? Extension 4 in your local community newspaper.
So you can track where your marketing is working and where it's not, and where your money needs to be spent better. And so that you're just not dishing out all of this money for marketing that may or may not be working.
Right.
So we sold that to them for $100,000 on a lease option. Okay.
I can't believe I
So
couldn't remember.
they have
that.
a rent with option to buy. So they gave us $3,500 down, and then they paid us $900 a month for rent. So we made $400 a month for rent for 2 years. Plus they put in a $10,000 privacy fence and upgraded the property. And then they got job transfer and moved away.
Hmm.
And we took it back over. And that's when.
And then that's when we did the Airbnb and then had our daughter move into it so that she could have her own place with her friends. And then now our daughter's best friend owns it.
And we
5
sold
years
it.
later or
We
whatever.
sold it to her for $135,000, and it appraised for her appraisal for $148,000.
And we bought it for 45.
Look at those numbers. And I think my biggest takeaway from everything you explained is the network part.
Yeah.
Is that you didn't have to go that far to go find the right people or the right fit, the people that needed to fit these situations. They were in your immediate connections, in your network.
Yes.
And a lot of times, I think people overthink where that next business is or opportunity is, or maybe the right fit for a situation is. It's just right around you. Really,
Yeah.
that's a big takeaway. That everybody's like looking online or trying to find people on Facebook and all the Facebook groups. But if you look in your network, it sounds like you can find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and always posting, like I need another house. Who's got one? Right? And driving around, like do you guys, almost everyone drives around town. Right?
I'm driving around town, not looking for properties, but yeah, I after being on lives and stuff with you all, I noticed I'm like, that looks distressed. That looks
Right.
yeah.
what's wrong with that? Why is
that's
that
the thing,
hotel empty?
Yep.
I just sent a text to my group
What are you gonna send over there?
this morning. I'm driving and I found a house that looked beat up, and the mattresses are out front, and the trash is piled up. And I contacted my team and said, "Hey, here's an address. I want you to skip trace this address." Okay, so skip trace is where you go to the county website and you look up that address on the county auditor. Okay, you can search Google your county auditor, type in the address, and you'll get the owner's name and their address, so you can find out, hey, do they live there, or is their address different? Okay, and then you skip trace them. That's where you look up all the phone numbers that are connected with them. Okay, and you can do that on People Looker.
Yep.
People,
Or you can Google sometimes.
yep, People Looker is a website you can use, very inexpensive. Do one property at a time, pull up all the phone numbers. Hey, I was just calling. This is Jay. I'm looking for a property to buy. And I was just checking to see, like, do you own this property? Because I'm really interested in it. I love that neighborhood. I love that street. My office is right around the corner. And what do you own it? And if so, what do you plan to do with it? Right?
Amazing. Makes it that easy, right? Just
That easy.
It's super easy. I think the biggest hurdle, or one of the biggest ones, is especially with our students. They're like, well, I don't have all of this money to put into marketing. I don't know all of these people. And it's literally as easy as driving around town, going to the grocery store, whatever, looking for houses. I mean, our daughter, she drives to Columbus a lot for her job as a social worker, and she's always sending, this so-and-so's house is for sale, or this house is for sale on this street, or whatever the case may be, or this one looks empty. Just be aware is more be aware and be vocal about what you do. Like you said on the Facebook lives, we go live. Jay goes live a lot more than I do, but we go live at properties that we're working on, saying, this is our newest flip, this is our newest wholesale deal, whatever the case may be, and just being vocal about what you do to the people that you know, or the people that know you.
And maybe you don't have a house yet, right? And so just drive down the street and go live and show this house and be like, "Oh my gosh, this house is beat up. Does anybody know who owns it? I'd like to buy it. Like, I would love to rehab this house and make it beautiful again. Who can help me with that?" Right? And
yeah,
you're putting it out there all the time. Like, you're putting your energy out there for
Yeah.
what you want, and it will come back to you.
We've even
absolutely.
used sticky notes and just left sticky notes on the door. Like,
Yeah.
I have cash for you.
right.
Yeah. I think the best one I ever heard was if you find a property that's distressed or something and nobody knows, you can't find anybody, just host a neighborhood barbecue and let them all come out, and then just start asking, like, who lived at this property,
Right.
who
Exactly.
somebody knows something, right?
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
put a bandit sign in the yard of the house that you want, that's abandoned or whatever, that you can't figure out. Put one of your bandit signs in there, and somebody's going to call you about that house.
Somebody, yeah. You can get really creative probably with that. I didn't think
Yeah.
about that one. Let's talk about getting on more creative stuff. Let's talk about finding deals through unique sources. So, a lot of people know about pre-foreclosures, tax delinquents, things are going up for the auction, vacant homes. But then I'm talking to Jay and Annie Adkins, and I'm like, where are you finding some of these deals? And they're like, the historical registry. And I'm like, what? Wait, what is this? Tell us.
Yes.
What in the world is this historical registry?
So in Ohio, there are a lot of small towns
Mhm.
and larger towns as well, that a lot of these communities here were built in the early 1900s. And so there are a number of properties that are on the historic registry, and you can drive. They're typically in the downtown areas
Mhm.
of the small towns. So whatever city or state you're in, look for those little villages or towns, and you'll see buildings that look dilapidated or beat down, vacant. And again, you can skip trace, like, again, look it up on the website, find out who owns it. Hey, what are you doing with this property? I
Mhm.
notice it's sitting, right? What are your plans with it? Actually, I'd like to sell it, right? I would like to sell it, and it's run down and it's been vacant for 10 years,
years.
Al. 10
Sitting
years.
vacant for 10 years in
Not
this small
one,
town.
not two, 10.
Right.
Yeah.
Not doing
A
anything.
decade.
A decade sitting empty.
No squatters?
Yes,
There were a couple, yeah.
Okay. There had to be
And-
There were
squatters
a
in
couple,
this.
right? Yeah.
And repeat squatters.
Yes.
I
But-
said, you got to start paying rent. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Pull a Jay Adkins right there. We'll forgive
But-
all the other.
Exactly. But it was a 8 unit that had been sitting empty for a decade. It was actually
One of our students found that one.
Yeah, and had just listed after sitting empty for a decade. Somebody finally decided that they were going to list it, but we had just found it on the historic registry, like Jay said too. So, and it actually was built so long ago that it doesn't have any parking because
They had
cars didn't
horses.
exist.
You would pull your horse up.
It was
to
built in
the
the
building.
late 1800s. So, yeah, and the house across the street from it actually it was an old house that they had turned into an office building upstairs and downstairs, kind of an office duplex kind of situation. And they have a ton of parking because it used to be an attorney's office and a doctor's office. And so we talked to the guy that we skip traced, the guy that owned the duplex, and talked to him and said, we really need your parking. And he, of course, charged us way more than he should have, but we bought it anyway so that we could have had the parking.
With owner financing.
Yes.
With owner financing. Look at that.
Yes. Yeah. So we did a 5-year land contract on that one.
On the duplex across the street so that we could have the 15 spaces of parking. For the row house across the street that was on the Historic Society that we got, it's an 8 unit, potential 9 unit, and we bought it for $65,000.
Amazing.
And then we used private money, a hard money loan. Okay. So that's where you're going to use not a bank. Okay. But there are lenders that will lend you money subject to you doing all these repairs. And so we said, okay, we want to buy this for $65,000. And then our rehab budget is $600,000. Okay. And so this hard money lender will then lend you the money for the rehab. Now that one, we had to bring 10% down of the purchase price with that lender. Okay. So our down payment was $6,500. And then they funded the rehab for us and put it in escrow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they hold the money at their bank. They've reserved this chunk of money for you. And as you complete parts of the project, they then refund you the money that you put into the property. Okay.
Interesting. Very interesting that they do that. And can you find this? Where do you find this registry? Like, I don't know if they have it in Florida. I know there's a lot of historical towns and different places
Yeah.
in Florida, or even in any other state, maybe California or where everybody's at. Is it like you just go to the clerk's office? You go to the property appraiser? Like where
With
do
the
you
county
go?
offices.
County offices. There's also the Ohio Historical Society.
Yeah.
And so there's groups like that where they'll have lists of properties that are available. And the great part about that too is we were able to secure a grant from the state of Ohio to help rehab the outside of the property. And so they are granting us $50,000 to help fix the solid copper gutters that are there, still original from 1900. So these gutters are, well, what's left of them, they're about 75% of the gutters are left, and they have holes and coming apart. So they need repair. And so they're giving us a grant to help fix that. And they're giving us a grant to help tuck point the brick. So that's where you're going to fill in the mortar in between the bricks. That's failing because the water's running down with no downspouts being there. And then money to help rebuild the concrete on the outside of the property as well, because they want to preserve that property. They want it to be rehabilitated to its original condition
On the outside, at least.
on the outside. And so, it is a lot of work. This is hard work, right? There's been a lot of meetings, a lot of budgeting, a lot of phone calls, a lot
Zoom
of
calls.
meeting contractors and getting different prices. So, it's not easy, okay? But it's doable and you just put in the work and you get the reward, okay? So this property will be valued at the appraisal was $965,000.
When it was all said and done.
And so there will be about $300,000 in equity in that property, and it should cash flow right around $2,400 or $2,500 a month. And that's after paying our building across the street for parking. So the one that we got across the street, seller finance, will be getting paid from that one for parking spots. That was the
Amazing.
only way that we could make that
All of that
deal
work.
work. Otherwise, there's nowhere for tenants to park.
And I'm thinking like this kind of reminds me of one of the programs that Duval has with like code enforcement liens and stuff
Mhm.
like that. They
Right.
like they'll do some kind of program where or with nuisance liens, they'll do some kind of program where if you are buying that property and you rehab it, they do some like every $2 you put in, they'll rebate you $1 back kind of program. And I can
Mhm.
kind of see how that the historical registry or program does something similar because like you said, Jay, they want it to be preserved or they want you to go back and try to make it look like it was
Right.
back then
Yeah.
because it helps probably attract more people to the area.
Oh
It,
yeah,
it,
for sure.
it makes it look amazing. So that's a very interesting lead source for people to look into, especially for cash flowing $2,500 a month. Plus, you're getting
Right.
the opportunity of the parking area.
Yeah.
Yes.
And there are
Yes.
people that are already ready to rent them as soon as they're done and they're not even finished yet. We have a list of people that want to move in.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy too that we got to talking about, which was you all don't just invest in property in Ohio,
Right.
you also invest in Florida.
Yes.
And I remember Annie, I don't know how it came up on my Facebook feed. I don't know if it was in the family group or where it was, but after Hurricane Ian,
Oh, yes.
I remember you posted something about, oh my gosh, our Airbnb, and it was really sad. I know
Yes.
everybody
It's
was
still
responding
very sad for me.
Yes.
going through. I mean, you all are in Ohio.
Mhm.
All of us in Florida know what hurricanes are.
Right.
What was that like for you all trying to fix that property after that hurricane hit? Because you get into this game going, we're going to come out positive and have
Right.
positive cash flow, and we're going to make it an Airbnb, but you don't expect an act of God to happen, and then it's like
No, not
now
at
we got to put
all.
more money into that kind of project. What's that like?
Yes. Well, it was a mess, but it's okay.
Yes. And we
Uh,
have a few mistakes to share with your
yes,
audience
definitely.
so that they can learn from our mistakes as well.
So we bought this property in Port Charlotte, Florida, in April of last year. And we finished it at the very beginning of June. We had it all ready to rent out, and it rented out within the first week or first 2 weeks. We had it on Airbnb and VRBO. It was rented for July. It was rented for part of August. It was rented for all of November, all of December, all of January, all of February. Well, Hurricane Ian hit in September and it destroyed $218,000 worth of damage to our house. The hurricane flew over and turned around in the middle of the street and went back over our house. It ripped the carport off. It ripped into like the
Part of the
hurricane
roof.
straps that are on the roof were all tweaked and twisted, and it was a mess. But we had tenants in there, and it was actually happening when we were at the family mastermind in
Yep.
Tampa. And I said, we're being evacuated in Tampa. You guys need to go. They're like, we're from Miami. We'll be fine. We've weathered hurricanes before. And I'm like, okay, well, they're telling everybody, even in Tampa, to get the heck out of there.
Yeah.
And it's going to get ugly. They're like, we'll be fine. Well, then I was getting text messages when we were back in Ohio. The roof is coming off or it's caving in. Call 911. And I'm like, 911 services are no longer valid
911
as of
has
right
left.
now. Everybody's gone.
They have left the
Exactly.
building.
So it was totally destroyed, and it took us a while, and by a while I mean we got our insurance check in January.
Wow, that's
For
wow.
yes,
Yeah.
Well, actually, not that bad considering how some of these
No.
programs
Right.
do take forever doing that.
True. Yeah, it was the end of January by the time we got the check. So Jay actually has been going back and forth for weeks at a time, taking people from our construction crew up here down there because again, we're licensed or he's licensed and insured and bonded up here, but so we know what we're doing. And we've taken our children down and then our daughter had surgery. So I've been staying put with her for the most part. So he's been driving. I think we've done like 6 trips back and forth to Florida since we've had the hurricane hit. And
We're getting
it's
close.
almost done.
We're getting
the
close to being
drywall's
done.
on the walls. There's painting and kitchen, and then it's ready to go. I
But
think.
when we bought the property, it was vacant. Okay.
Mhm.
So we had vacant dwelling insurance.
Yes, this was the big lesson.
And once we got it finished and now it's being occupied, we forgot to switch the insurance to occupied and then covering lost rents. Okay. So that's a rider that you can add to your homeowner's policy.
We switched it from vacant dwelling to dwelling, but it was rented as a short, or like it was insured as a short-term rental. So we didn't think about personal property insurance. We didn't think about lost rents insurance, and that all would have been covered
If we
had
added
those riders
to our policy. So
policy.
make sure, people, make sure
Yeah,
this is a $30,000
mistake.
lesson. Okay.
A big
Make
lesson.
sure that if you have a rental property that you have a lost rents rider if your property's damaged, and if it's an Airbnb that you have personal property coverage, because we were supposed to make about $6,500 a month every month from those all of those months of rent, and we lost
we
all of
made
that
0
money.
Wow.
because we had to cancel the reservations. Obviously, they couldn't stay there, so we canceled the reservations. But had we had that lost rent coverage, that would have kicked in and covered what we lost.
So we're sharing the good and we're sharing the bad.
Lesson
Yeah.
learned.
It's not always pretty in roses and rainbows, right?
No,
no.
definitely not.
There's
So
gonna-
learn from our mistakes is all we can say.
But that's good to learn for
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
the viewers and the listeners, is that you're going to get into these situations, and everybody, when they jump into this market, they're like, it's got to be positive cash flow. You're going to learn some things down the road, right? So,
for
and that's the take I get from a lot of the guests that are on the show that have been through these scenarios. There's good and then there's bad, but you learn from your mistakes. You learn from these
Right.
things and you
Yes.
overcome them. So,
Absolutely.
amazing that you went. It's amazing that you can share this on the other side of that
Yeah.
story, and at the same time you learn, so you're not going to make that same mistake again.
Definitely
Yes.
not.
Writers.
Yes.
Let's also talk about this. I've been doing a new segment at the end of my show, which is hot trends, things that have
Yes.
been happening that's like really on the top of your mind. It's happening in the now or a month ago, but it's more in the now. On what's been something lately that you all see as a hot trend?
So for us, it has been we also do a number of flip houses. Okay, so we do fix and flips, and the trend that we're seeing is because the rates have doubled, the higher end market in Ohio has slowed
Mhm.
down a lot. So the move up buyers are not moving up; they're staying put. And so we have made an adjustment in our market to only fix and flip first time home buyer pocket properties. Okay. So we're really looking for properties that we can buy and sell for like $300,000 or less. Okay. And so that is still, if you buy a house in that price range, you're still going to pay less than rent. Homeownership is still the American dream.
Right.
And so your properties are going to move a lot faster, and you may even still get multiple offers on them at the moment.
And then along those same lines, since we're staying in the first time home buyer's pocket with our flips, we are also looking at our rental properties because we have 53 of them here locally. And then we're going to be like, okay, so can this one be done on a lease option instead of just a regular rental, so that one, we can get an upfront down payment from them, but then we're also providing a first time home for those buyers as well. So
Interesting. Yeah, you were all talking about that, like shifting the focus away from that and not getting into those high-end homes
yeah,
and focusing more on what you want to do, which is more the creative financing stuff right now.
right,
And that's inspiring because people don't know if they need a pivot
right,
in their markets, right? It's okay to pivot
yes,
and transition to something different just based on what's happening. So
hmm,
I think that is a great takeaway for people out there, that it's okay to say we need a change.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Awesome. I love the energy between you two. It's a great dialogue and back and forth. I mean, Jay, you would never know it's been an hour already.
I know.
You know, isn't that crazy? Like, I mean, we're talking about this and how fast that the show goes. It's unbelievable. We always have fun, and you two have been amazing, dropping value.
Oh,
Wait till you see the micro content that's going to come out from this. It's going to be unbelievable. As I do when I wrap up the show at the end of the night, I always do a segment. I don't even know if I told you two about this, so this is going
oh
to be
no.
You get a surprise.
you get my favorite question. At the end of my shows, I always do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. And it can be anything on the real estate side, work, family, life, family balance, you know, what you all go through, share some wisdom. It can be one word. We've had people on the show actually do like one word. And that was final words, final thoughts. I didn't say final word, final thought.
Right, exactly.
But you could do that if you wanted to, or you could, talk about what's going on in the family world. So as I do on the end of my show, Jay Adkins, Annie Adkins, final words, final thoughts.
Well, I would say that my final words and final thoughts, and Jay, you can chime in if you want, but is design your life first. You know, we spend lots of time designing wedding plans and even funeral plans these days, so that everything is planned out for our families. But lots of people don't design their life, and we just get up and go to work and, all of the mundane things. So I really, really, really stress, and we have done this ourselves, design the life that you want, and then design your business around that, so that you're not working to serve, you know what I mean? You're living instead of working to live, kind of thing. But yeah, definitely design your life and then fit your business in to make that life happen.
My final words are, you can do this.
Yeah.
Anyone can do this, right? And all you have to do is put in effort and think of who you're going to help. Like, you're going to serve people doing these creative deals. You're going to serve someone. You're going to save someone from foreclosure,
Absolutely.
right? You're going to help improve someone's life, and at the same time improve your own life. And that first deal is like 10 deals in one, right? That first deal is the hardest one. So go out and do it and make it happen.
I love it. For some reason, I felt like you were going to say all that back rent that you owed. You don't owe that anymore. You need to start paying $2,000 a month. I felt like you were going to say something like that. I think it's great. Lots of wisdom, lots of knowledge on things that you both get into. I want to make sure everybody connects with you. Drop your podcast. Where can people find you? The show, your coaching programs, all of that. Let that rip.
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is jayandannieadkins.com. It has all of the information there about our coaching program. We have a beginning coaching program for newbies in real estate. We have a mastermind for people that have done several deals, that those people that start out with us can graduate into. Our podcast is coming out soon. As of right now, it's called Real Estate Ride, but that may change.
I like that.
But yeah, check us out on Instagram and on Facebook. We're on all the social media platforms, and we actually have a YouTube channel as well. So
send us your first deal. We want to know about it.
yeah, absolutely.
I love it. And what we did last week, we keep a QR code up there. And all of a sudden, as soon as I said this, the numbers went up. Scan the QR code. we explain that the QR code has where you can find Annie and Jay and all their content and connect with them, because this is the important part about the show, is that it's the connections, it's the relationships, it's finding people in your network. I mean, especially I have somebody today say, hey, a South Carolina probate attorney. Well, I'm like, it's all about the connections that you make. So make sure you scan the QR code, whether you're watching live or even later when you catch this on YouTube, because they have great content. They're doing amazing in the community. Love seeing you two. Thank you both so much for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
It was fun.
thank your staff too, Al. They did a great
Yes.
job.
Yes,
They're
absolutely.
amazing, and you're amazing too, man. We really appreciate the ability to come on and share the good, the bad, and
And the ugly.
The ugly,
and the ugly.
the ugly, and you owe me rent tomorrow kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
I love it. Thank you both so much. Love it. I can't wait to see you soon. I don't know when that'll be, but
I know.
we
We'll
will
figure something
catch
out.
up for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
All right, you two. I'll see you soon.
Okay, thanks, Al.
Thanks,
You got it.
Al.
Take care.
You too.
All right. Wow. I mean, that easily could have been 3 hours right there. We there's so much to unpack on numbers, creative financing, deal structuring, sources, where you can find these. I still think the most interesting thing about it is that historical registry, like how nobody's talked about that before, right? Nobody's talked about another unique way to find deals, right? And I think a lot of times we're always thinking about the same ones. Think outside the box. Start thinking about what is different out there, and that's something that's really different. And also some of the strategies that Jay and Annie were talking about being able to talk to some of these sellers in just a very simple way. You don't even have to show numbers. It's sometimes it's about more of the now situation that you're getting into, and sometimes getting into all this stuff is not always easy, right? Dealing with a storm that hits like a hurricane and you're expecting to cash flow property. How do you handle it? What are some things that you learn from it? We talked about all of this stuff on this episode. So if you missed any of that, make sure you go back, check that out, rewind, go back to the beginning. Jam-packed episode on creative financing, seller terms, and all the really interesting things we get into on the Al Nicoletti Show. And that basically concludes an Al Nicoletti Show March creative financing special. I mean, I don't know if there could be another episode on it because there's just so much on all this stuff. So thank you to everybody that's always watching. Teresa, I love it. Robert Rodriguez, even Frank Spalding. Frank, you're watching right now. I love that. And everybody that is on the live, we're here. We go live every Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. And I think that the show just keeps evolving on its own. And I love that people just keep watching and want to comment and want to learn. So if you want more educational content like this, make sure you check out the Al Nicoletti YouTube channel under Al Nicoletti, the Facebook business page, the personal page, Instagram @Attorney Nicoletti, and all the amazing guests that are on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Play on season 1, season 2, season 3. We are constantly here. We are live next Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. I got a crazy schedule, okay? I don't even know what Wednesday I'm here. Next Wednesday, live, 9 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss it. Another great episode. So I will see you all next week. Have a great night. See you soon. Take care.